World of Warcraft is a big game. Azeroth is a big planet. There are many characters, many plots, and many storylines, most of whom are complete. But in something as big as WoW, there's bound to be some loose ends. And believe me, there is a whole lot of loose ends. So many, in fact, that we are going to dedicate an entire video to talking about just some of those loose ends. Emphasis on some. I'm just gonna come out and say it. There is no way I could get to every single loose end today, but we will go over the ones that are most relevant for the future in case that world update idea that gets thrown around every couple of years finally comes to fruition. In fact, I would argue that such a thing is more likely now than it has ever been. But I won't go more into the world update because I've already done a video on it, which you can go watch for yourself right here. Just know, many of these loose ends can, in fact, become entire expansions or entire patches in of themselves. Now then, let us discuss the many loose ends of Warcraft, and we will start with what I would argue is the biggest one, Azerite. Now I know, just mentioning the word Azerite might give some of you horrible PTSD. I'm sorry, I know, it must hurt to hear Azerite once again, but it's gotta be stated. Back during BFA, we stabilized Azeroth and kept her from keeling over, but Azerite didn't just go away. Like, imagine you're bleeding, right? You're getting blood all over the place, and then the wound stops bleeding. Does the blood that got all over the ground just go away? No, Azeroth might have stopped bleeding, but there is still blood all over the place. There are wounds, there is Azerite still all across the planet. And as we know, Azerite is really, really dangerous. It is basically the Azerothian equivalent of uranium, and we don't want that falling into the hands of someone or something that would use it for ill. Like, imagine for a second if a squad of gnolls started using this stuff. What if they found the vein out in Elwyn and they developed these primitive tools out of the stuff? We'd be looking at another gnoll war. Or imagine this. Imagine if a certain overweight former trade prince starts stockpiling the stuff if he hasn't already. Imagine the type of damage one like that could do. And this leads us right into the next loose end, Gallywix. At the end of BFA, Sylvanas and her inner council left vacant the Horde and fled to the corners of Azeroth. The Thanos we've already dealt with. Sylvanas we are in the process of dealing with, but Gallywix, well, in the Goblin Heritage Armor questline, we confronted the Trade Prince and removed him as leader of the Bilgewater Cartel. But Gallywix did manage to escape. He fled once again into the unknown and wasn't seen until 9.1, where he can be found schmoozing it up with a bunch of brokers inside the Veiled Market. Now, we don't really know what he was doing there. It could just be an Easter egg, but it's likely that if Gallywix was really there, that he was trying to peddle something, and that something might be Azerite. You see, brokers are traders. They like valuable things. And Azerite is fairly valuable. It's not every day that a planet literally goes out and bleeds, and so it's possible that Gallywix would try to peddle the stuff in hopes of getting a group of brokers to go along with Gallywix's desires. And I can only assume that those desires might be revenge against the Horde for booting him out, and a reclamation of his status as trade prince, which would likely lead us back to Kazan and the Undermine, which, well, that's another plot altogether, but there are better things I would like to discuss. And those things are things like, let me get out my list here. Yeah. Here we go. The Burning Legion. Now, the Burning Legion was defeated. We, the denizens of Azeroth, fought back against the Burning Legion and took the fight directly to their homeworld, where, well, I think we all know what happened. But while we defeated the Legion, while we disabled their capacity to wage genocide on the cosmos, they are still out there. I've done an entire video on this already, but it needs to be restated. The Burning Legion's third invasion was a global phenomenon. We might have beat the Legion on the Broken Isles and on Argus, but it's highly probable to assume that even today, there are still holdouts of demons all across the planet, incapable of waging war, mind you, but are more than capable of causing problems. And the same can be said for another global threat, the undead. When Sylvanas Windrunner shattered the Helm of Domination, it prompted those once bound to the Lich King to rampage across the planet. Though it might have seemed like we already solved the Scourge crisis during the pre-patch, during the Kyrian campaign, we actually pick up a soul that had been recently killed during a Scourge attack on Lakeshire. This attack occurred after our arrival in Oribos. So even as we party in the lands of the dead, the Scourge still party around our homes. And though you could say that by the time of a 10.0, by the time of the next expansion, the Scourge should be contained, like with the Legion, the undead never truly go away. And speaking of never going away, there is a threat that doesn't actually go away because, well, it really can't. And of course I'm talking about Old Gods and the Void. More specifically, Xalatoth, because it's still very much true that Xalatoth is still running around Azeroth. For those who don't know, or need a reminder, Xalatoth, Blade of the Black Empire, managed to trick us into releasing her from the blade that bound her before she offered the empty weapon and us to N'Zoth. Since then, Xalatoth has remained absent from the story, but will surely return and perhaps cause problems for us and most of the planet. What those problems might be, well, your guess is really as good as mine. Maybe Xalatoth is actually that fifth old god from the old lore. Maybe she was beaten by the other old gods and imprisoned within the blade. Maybe now she's planning her revenge. Maybe the other old gods, Cthulhu, Yogg-Saron, even N'Zoth and Y'Shaarj, will soon play a role once again. But that's not to mention all the other loose ends that we still have yet to cover. You have Teldrassil and the recovery of the Night Elves. You have the Forsaken and the reclamation of Lordaeron, alternate Draenor and the Lightbound Draenei, Vol'jin, Razan and the mantle of the Loa of Kings, the Pillars of Creation and the impact they could have on Azeroth, artifact weapons. Where'd they go? What's happening with the Ashbringer? Where's Stromkar? What about Doomhammer? Where's the Scythe of Elune? And how about the Blades of the Fallen Prince? Those are important artifacts, and they are nowhere to be seen. Other than that, well, there's actually a lot more I can discuss, but like I said, there is no way I would be able to get to them all today and keep this video under 15 minutes. Instead, I ask you, loyal viewer, what are some of Warcraft's loose ends that I didn't discuss? Is there any one of the loose ends I talked about today, or any one of your own that you would like to see addressed sometime in the future? There's no wrong answers on this, so if you have any questions or comments about this video, Warcraft, or its lore, you can leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to read each and every one of them. Thanks for watching, and remember well,